Hey guys, Zibboyeye or just Zib is fine, and today we take a head-spinning ride on one of Japan's wildest trilogies. In this video we're looking at Dead or Alive, a set of films that need no introduction if familiar with the small Japanese trend or director. The 1980s enriched Japan with an economic boom. There was disco, woman, cause they only existed then I guess, and other stuff from Yakuza 0. But nothing lasts forever, and the bubble burst at the turn of the decade, dealing a heavy blow to the film industry. Fortunately, a humble savior kept Japanese cinema afloat: VHS. While viewers today look down upon direct-to-video as a low-effort, low-quality affair, at the time the means provided an affordable alternative to big-screen productions. These straight-to-tape films became known as V-cinema, a genre in which Yakuza movies thrived, and no one played those burly brutes more than Aikawa and Riki Takeuchi. I must stress these actors' dominance. V-cinema was cheap to produce, so studios pumped it out like gangbusters, to the point that Takeuchi led the Jingi series from the first in 1991 to Jingi 52 in 2009. I can't even fathom 52 movies in less than 2 decades. After a while you'd think they'd be embarrassed like a girl who hides her age, but props to its honesty, I guess. Point being, in the 90s, these two mugs on repeat stared you down the video store aisle. A clash between the two seemed inevitable, but before their collision, two other paths needed cross. If you rented gangster movies back then, you'd get used to seeing directed by Takashi Miike in the credits. A widely known director today, famous for his extreme and subversive handling of scripts. Though not as well known as the next player in this story, Toshiki Kimura, a producer on a few of Miike's early works. Likely unbeknownst to them, their unique relationship with the medium made them the perfect pair. Miike hadn't dreamed of working in film at all. He yearned for the smell of burnt rubber as a motorbike racer. However, due to the high skill level required, he opted for directing. In his own words, "I didn't have another choice." As for Kimura, his journey began when he dropped out of university. His father urging him to make something of his young adulthood, Kimura saw an opportunity.
たまたま自分の枕元に映画の本が置いてあったんで、ふっと横目で見て、いや、映画の学校があるから行こうと思うんだよね。
Neither pursued film as their first choice, rather they ended up falling into this passion. Kimura had a fondness for hard-boiled gangster-type movies, and what better time to produce one than the age of V-cinema? Thus, he and Miike set the ring for the kings of Yakuza, Aikawa and Riki Takeuchi, to duke it out. To find out who will leave dead or alive. Okay, maybe not that dramatic, they do have to come back for the sequels. But not before we start where it all began, so let's grease our hair and look at Dead or Alive. Ryuichi, played by Takeuchi, leads a small but tight-knit gang of murderer thieves. Following their latest hit and robbery, Detective Jojima, played by Aikawa, is hot on their trail. Put simply, a game of cops and robbers, who will come out on top. Now it puts the pedal to the metal as soon as the title drops. The opening is a relentless barrage of sex, drugs, violence, and whatever the hell this is. One of my favorite attention grabbers in a movie. But it might be too good. The intro led me to expect a romp through action and depravity, but such displays come and go. Not to mention the particularly foul moments are some of the only comments I heard on the movie initially. Even the box notes its shock first and foremost. Don't get me wrong, when it plays around, it doesn't play around. Like stuff I wouldn't dare show on YouTube. Funnily enough, these bursts of perversion almost didn't make it in. Producers crossed out several ideas in the script, so Miike and crew stopped writing them and just filmed it anyway. Producers were furious, to Miike's and even their own amusement. The guts on this guy to defy his bosses like, Yeah, I filmed that. What you gonna do? Waste more time and money on reshoots? Point being, from production to premiere, outrage was in play. But the film won't flaunt it. It knows to hold its wild cards until just the right time. Returning knowing that, I enjoyed my second watch more. So let's examine what more there is to DOA. The cinematography stands out, especially after the in-your-face intro. The understated camera work utilizes lengthy wide shots that almost detach the viewer from any particular perspective. The matter-of-fact cinematography makes me feel like a fly on the wall. As for specific shots, I love the rhythm and parallelism in this one at the wharf. Although I took pleasure in many of the locations, like this dreamlike gravesite where the world fades into this hazy, barren horizon. Otherwise, with clubs, narrow back alleys, and secret hideouts, the environments engrossed me in Tokyo's seedy underbelly, from which the story unfolds, albeit in a fuzzy manner. Events string together rather loosely. It doesn't help that Jojima's investigation presents dull. On the other side of the coin, you'd think the Yakuza would be in a mad rush for Ryuichi after taking their men and money. But it's not much of an active search. Though not without its peaks, a breadth of the plot movement less than satisfies. Over the story, I got more out of the characters. Aikawa and Takeuchi command a certain attention to them. Their glares say it all. Beyond star power, the cop and thug are at their best when caught in personal drama. Family plays an important role in the narrative. You get the usual scene where the detective rushes from a family meal to bust a crime. But unexpected is when his partner's kid tags along for an investigation. There's this inescapability between financial obligation and personal relations. The movie also explores racial identity, particularly through Ryuichi, who shares Chinese-Japanese mixed upbringing with his gang. Interestingly, the Japanese Yakuza and the Chinese Triad organize a partnership. But despite being a cross of both cultures, Ryuichi sides with neither. The family that is his gang reaffirmed their identity formed on the basis of their diaspora. It shows that we define ourselves not merely based on resemblance to peers, but rather othering others from ourselves. The strongest ideas, though, are mirrored between both sides of the story. At one point, Jojima's partner tries to convince his child to eat lunch. Meanwhile, Ryuichi's brother, Toji, returns from studying abroad. When a gang member tries to run off with a portion of the crew's latest loot, Ryuichi kills him. This results in an argument between the two siblings. If you fail, it's on you. Both parties push meritocratic ideals to influence youth. Although Toji rightfully objects to using the end result as validation. The biggest parallel, though, is the means by which the two leads support their family. Ryuichi funded Toji's education with blood money. On the flip side, Jojima's daughter suffers from illness. When said she'll need treatment soon, lacking funds, Jojima aggressively pursues more arrests and even lands a deal with a Yakuza boss for the cash. It's not Toji's fault he wasn't born into wealth. If it weren't for Ryuichi's crimes, he may not be able to pursue study. The sickness is neither the fault of Jojima's family, yet they still pay for it. Further complicating things, does a cop who employs shady methods such as Jojima deserve his badge? All this serves to poke holes in the idea that we've successfully built a meritocracy. However, both cop and killer's actions are united by the same motive, the green. Perhaps this scene can shed some light on their behavior.
共産主義理念への再検討がここで始めなければあかんわけですわ。マルクスらの共産主義は現実の資本主義の矛盾や問題点の内部からつまりユートピアではないでしょうか。
Both sides subordinate morality to financial gain. Contextualized by the professor's speech, the narrative asserts crime and indictment of capitalism's limited social agency. So the same movie with the poo-filled pool promotes socialism. Didn't see that one coming. And even less predictable is the ending. After all, the trailer says the climax will blow your mind. So, spoilers until this time, and let's have our minds blown. Ryuichi and his gang instigate a shootout with the Yakuza and Triad. However, when Toji shows up, Jojima's partner at the scene shoots him. Ryuichi is out for revenge, but not before the detective sees his wife and child off. Ugh, jeez. It's so abrupt it got me again the second time. With nothing left to lose, Jojima corners Ryuichi in an empty field. And what follows is... see for yourself. Ryuichi's buddy bombs the officer's car, but Jojima survives, somehow. Trading shots to the point they're Swiss cheese, the battle... ends? Huh? Where'd he get that from? He pulls a bazooka off his back like it's Resident Evil 4. Actually, a critic once confronted Miike asking why the bazooka, to which Miike elucidated, why shouldn't he have a bazooka? Well, showed me, I guess. So what's Ryuichi got up his sleeve? I don't know where to begin. I guess with how this scene came to be. Kimura had written his own ending, but Miike wanted something bigger. He wasn't sure what until inspiration struck the night before shooting. The following day, they completely tossed the script. The director had to mime the scene to his actors, thus giving us the finale we have today. With any other film and any other director, that would come as a surprise. So the ending threw all reason, tonal consistency, everything out the window. And I love it! Regardless of how stupid it is, it still answers the big question, who will win? Would it much differ were it more normal? Like, if they pulled out Uzis, would it change anything? Okay, yeah, they wouldn't blow up the Northern Hemisphere. But every other character we cared about is dead by then anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The climax pushes heightened realism to its limit, and asks if there is one. And in doing so makes me question, given consistent dramatic results, to what extent is believability necessary even in a grounded narrative? It makes me think believability is mere aesthetic. But, I don't know. I'd probably object to this kind of end in a plot or tone I'm more invested in. It just works for me here and I can't pinpoint why. Goes to show how special the finale is. Dead or Alive is a movie that jumps between the standard and strange. The understated visuals subtly add to the setting, even if the loosely structured story just manages to string me along. That being said, the characters explored interesting themes up to a fascinatingly explosive climax. The ideas it provided got my gears turning. But in spite of Kimura considering this a send-off to V-Cinema, DOA couldn't even end there. Soon, work began on a sequel, a concept Miike did not favor. Generally, I think making a sequel is an insult to the original film because the producers think we can make something better than the first film for less money. For example, when we sell 20,000 copies of a video, they think we can sell at least 15,000 copies of the sequel. A sequel project is always based on negative thinking. Nevertheless, Miike still signed on to direct. Both he and Kimura hope to put a new spin on the continuation. To do so, they enlisted the help of past associate Masa Nakamura as screenwriter. So what did the team bring to the table? Let's find out and look at Dead or Alive 2: Birds. The story begins when a man hires hitman Mizuki Okamoto, played by Sho Aikawa, to assassinate a Yakuza. However, when Shuichi Sawada, played by Riki Takeuchi, opens fire on his own clan including the target, Okamoto, confused, considers it mission accomplished, job well done. Unfortunately, the family that ordered the hit isn't happy the assassin didn't pull the trigger, let alone already spent his pay. Both on the run, Okamoto and Sawada hide out on an island that unites the two's past. The premise is a stark departure from its predecessor. I anticipated the pompadoured powerhouse and bespectacled beast at each other's throats once more. On the contrary, the two are friends, brothers of the same orphanage. The story follows the reunited souls reminiscing and rekindling their bond. Kimura wanted to flip the hard-boiled genre on its head. As for Miike, he sought to rebel against the typical idea of sequels, hence this new direction. Personally, I'm for it. Why try to beat the first at its own game when you can play something else entirely? Not to mention I was most invested in DOA's human drama, which this premise maintains. In fact, the sequel relishes in that aspect as it downplays the Yakuza. The Yakuza incites the conflict, but the narrative lends greater ear to the characters. A driving force that makes my favorite of Miike's works. Perhaps emboldened by the director's unique philosophy.
台本の出来は70点ぐらいがいいなと。70点だと残りの30点残ってるんで、それは自分じゃなくて夜スタッフとか俳優が埋めてくれるから。
To make up the remaining 30%, Miike lets his crew run with and even propose ideas, which may account for that human touch common in his work. A feature felt here. The characters appear tough at first, which made me only further expect a throwdown. However, as the film explores their sentimentality, so too does it reveal their sensitive side. Generally speaking, I prefer Aikawa as an actor. Surprisingly though, I couldn't take my eyes off Takeuchi in DOA 2. Rather than the usual tough, reserved type, his character wears his emotions on his sleeve. In fact, the brothers share a blissful bond that's so sweet it carries much of the movie. Oh, also I forgot to say, the opening greets you with a familiar face. Shinya Tsukamoto, the mind behind Tetsuo the Iron Man. Maybe I should have said a familiar face to me because I eat up weird Japanese cinema. And weird, DOA 2 is no stranger to. So what better time to look through its odd Miike-isms? For instance, when gangsters corner Okamoto. What's up with these two movies and Aikawa pulling convenient items off his back? That's like if I... Oh. On to the next one. Then there's this scene where the Yakuza off this man. Did the movie just have a game over screen? I can't forget this scene when Okamoto and Sawada take part in the village play. The former portrays a kappa fit with a prosthetic willy. The bee stings his crotch, after which the players joyously stomp on his fallen member. Interestingly, later a woman mourns the loss of her really big willied partner. She has left his manhood as a memento. So the willy represents masculinity, and its disembodiment symbolizes... Actually, I think the director's just being a freak. And really, that's exactly what I want in a Miike film. Even if it's not trying to be as harsh as the first, I find the sequel delivers further in oddities. But humorous as this supercut may be, DOA 2 has some serious artistic chops. Its editing and imagery take an avant-garde style. It contributes to the tone that borders on fanciful. The small, simple town neighbored by beautiful nature had me sitting really cozy. A crass nostalgia overtakes the film for a while. Usually in these stories the heroes struggle with constant hurdles that they can't live in the past. But aside from some hiccups, the duo pretty much carry on at their old stomping grounds like when they were kids. It's oddly delightful. It's as though time slows down, and the same can be said regarding plot. The protagonists face almost no problems here. Conflict becomes more realized around the hour mark. That's a horrible pace. The plot picks up when there's barely half an hour left. But enjoying the characters, I found the lackadaisical middle pleasant. But it's not all fun and games. Okamoto's past explores a deep dread of many. Raised Christian by the orphanage, Okamoto fears the fires of hell. Ironically, the supervisor who taught him religion wound up suffering severe burns after attempting to rescue a child from a fire. It's like a twisted means of inspiring hope. If even the innocent can be punished, maybe fate will pity our two wayward leads. Speaking of, that word calls to mind an exchange. All in all, a sense of whatever, stuff happens, backs the work. But what will happen? Well, spoilers until this time, and let's get to it. Okamoto reveals why he's a hitman. He sends payment to supply vaccines to impoverished third world children. One criminal dies and thousands of kids get to live. Swayed, Sawada joins his friend on his mission. The two are happier than ever until the gang hunting them hire the duo as a trap. In a shootout, Okamoto realizes the Yakuza were no less unfortunate nor human than the children he sought to save. I like the shifts in ethics. When asked why he shot his Yakuza family, Sawada responds, So no reason, just impulse. Next is Okamoto's offer. Off one jerk, save countless innocents. It's the trolley problem. A utilitarian evaluation too. On top of insinuating that individual lives are not necessarily equal. By the end though, it dawns on him he's been going about it all wrong. These guys are no less deserving of life. He sees through a virtue-based lens now. Wrongful acts such as killing are never right regardless of their result. The two make it out, but shot to hell. Okamoto dies on the trip back to the island, while Sawada doesn't have much longer. I expected them both to collapse on the rooftop, closing there. But they walk around after like nothing's wrong for hours. It's a touching, even if illogical, pocket of stasis. On that note, let's focus on the use of time. For context, the question, "Where are you?" flashes at certain points. On their final boat trip, the brothers ponder about their friend's soon-born child, causing Okamoto to remark,
赤ちゃんはいいよな、なんか。
just before he fades. After a shot of their friend's newborn, the movie asks, where are you going? Rather than living in the present, consider the future. It's tragic that Okamoto only realized this too late. But I'm enamored with the projection of this mentality. When on the island, it feels as though time has stopped. Why progress plot? Enjoy the moment. Time is still paused when the two hardly suffer from their fatal wounds. It only catches up with Okamoto when he considers having children, how he could have spent his future. The protagonists mold the structure, it's a reflection of them. The narrative's manipulation of time perfectly conveys their comfort in the now, where are you? But like a rubber band, living in the moment can only stretch so far until snap. A masterful use of form that made me feel the theme before I could process it. Dead or Alive 2 Birds changes the game in the best of ways. It has that Miike weirdness that entertains as well as adds personality to the work. It may loiter around too much for some, but it's not meaningless. Furthermore, the film nails its sense of nostalgia, complementing its lead's memorable brotherhood. Beyond its tough exterior lies a tender story that I got quite into. And it wouldn't be a trilogy without another follow-up. Kimura produces once again, and Miike is still comfortable in his director's seat. For writing, Ichiro Ryu, screenwriter of the first movie, returns, accompanied by two newcomers. After the last two, I don't know what to expect, so let's check out the trailer. So the teaser seems to follow up on the first movie when suddenly a giant Takashi Miike head descends from the sky with, "Oh my goodness!" But it's all a joke. Thankfully, cause if the director worked that into one of his movies, I'd think he'd went off the deep end. And this is Miike we're talking about. Maybe the next trailer is more indicative. So it recaps the first two, then... Okay, forget it. Let's just pop it in and look at Dead or Alive Final. The story takes place in the 24th century. Japan's dictator, Wu, decrees true love flourishes in the absence of procreation. Thus, he forces his citizens to consume pills, to remain sterile. Things look bleak for a gang of freedom fighters until an android by the name of Ryo, played by Aikawa, blows into town and joins their cause. Unfortunately, up against Wu's right-hand man, Honda, played by Riki Takeuchi, the battle to overthrow the tyrant won't be easy. My first order of business, the villain. Wu is attracted to men, compounded with this line,
有位哲學家曾經講過，真愛永遠都喺同性戀中。
I had written him down as homosexual, but looking through the script, this quote is the closest he gets to anything gay. He never overtly identifies his sexuality. Neither does he note citizens' orientations. His mission purely to erase fertility itself. At first, I was concerned the story could be construed as homophobic, but really I find the material inoffensive. In fact, it continues a pattern in Miike's work where he estranges attraction from identity. Maybe I should put a pin in that topic were I to branch out into more essay-like content. That said, this is as interesting as the film gets. So much nothing goes on in the middle. The resistance seems to be formed on their unifying absence of personality. Sadly, the robotic Ryo fits in pretty well. Except, lacking personal motive, his character is both boring and directionless. Oh, but this android is programmed to substitute character with catchphrase. Honda fares a bit better, undergoing an arc, but he still falls pretty flat. So the story and characters are paper thin, but DOA Final goes for more action, so how's that? The over-the-top choreography entertains, when it's there at all. Waiting for the next battle feels like waiting for the bus. And when they do arrive, they hardly build enough to leave an impact. Miike said these sequels budget down. So why set up crazy action when the budget can't support it? I'd like to see more of it, but on the topic of seeing, you undoubtedly noticed it within the first few clips. The revolting, jaundiced palette. It's like watching a movie reflected off of Neocortex's head.
Are you enjoying the film?
Nope. It's hard enough to watch the movie. The mere act of looking at it pains me. I'd say someone added their own personal touch by urinating on the film reel, but that can't be the case. It's all digital and stuck in standard definition with burned-in subtitles to boot. Even if the visuals were cleaned up, it wouldn't salvage the imagery. The locations generally displease. Now I know what you're thinking, it's the slums, it's supposed to be ugly. Well then how come Supreme Leader Wu holds a saxophone performance for his fellow aristocrats in what looks like some dingy crack addict hangout? You're the social elite, you're supposed to make everyone else wallow in filth. I'm at my wit's end, but thankfully DOA Final is at its end, so spoilers until this time, and let's get to it. Honda learns that his life is a lie. He and his whole family are robots, even his son.
呢啲係一個完美嘅家庭咩？
He never questioned why his own son didn't age? Why even put that detail in the movie? It just makes him look stupid. Learning the errors of his ways, Honda beckons Ryo. Along the way, clips from prior entries flash. It's not like the continuities connect, but I dig it. Face to face in a warehouse, the two throw hands. They're both on the same side by this point. Fighting makes no sense. Except in Guy Fantasyland, it makes perfect sense. The rivals have to come to blows at the end. The fact that there is no reason for it outside of proving their might only makes it cooler. Yeah, you can tell I grew up on Dragon Ball Z. Suddenly, the two fuse into their original form from centuries past. A giant robot with a penis for a head. And a pretty accurate one, too. Alright, the movie finally kicked it up a notch. Giant robot. Willy! This final battle's gonna rock! Here it comes!
Oh my god!
Fuck! Wasn't there some rule, trope, I don't know, Chekhov's Mecha Willy? Don't introduce a giant penis robot in any act if it isn't gonna blow something up. And with my balls now a deep shade of blue, that was Dead or Alive Final. And I think I'd pick the former. Boring, anticlimactic, and ugly. Hey, this is my longest review so far. I gotta shave off time somewhere. But no matter what, the third entry can't take away the qualities of its predecessors. Beyond Miike's signature shock, both feature real character drama, and fulfill their stories through narratologically unconventional means. It's no wonder how it ended up this way when peeking into Miike's process. I'd like to throw away the things I studied on set as an assistant director. To throw away the thoughts of what goes into making a good film and the idea of having to shoot a certain way for it to end up as a real film, I like to break my own common sense. While it's easy to peg this as one of the director's quirks, his nuance and right to iconography as a whole are just as much a product of the era in which they developed.
なんかこうなんていうのかな、規制が少ない V シネマは最高だったって言ってる。それがやっぱ対策になってくると、いろんな人たちがやっぱりいろんなこと言うから、それ考えるとやっぱりその V シネマの時代に好きなことやってもいいよって言ったその時代は最高だったって言ってましたね。
In recent times, direct-to-video has become that shameful corner from which cheap sequels emerge. But in 90s Japan, it was the perfect primordial soup for experimental filmmakers to grow. And this trilogy reflects both that and its director. Though his record not without some blemishes, Miike more often than not hits his mark and even more leaves his own on the variety of works he touches. I've been Zibboyeye, or just Zib is fine, and thank you for watching. Zibbo bye bye!